Greetings, my name is Jonatas and I live in Japan, work as a history teacher. And today I will be talking about what is the purpose of education. Is there any point to it all? And in order to answer that question, I want to make use of a sermon that was later transcribed into an essay, which was preached at the Church of St. Mary the Virgin in Oxford, 1939. Now, if you recall, 1939, especially the fall of 1939, September, it was the time that Hitler had invaded Poland, and that was the beginning of World War II on the Western Front. On the Eastern Theater, World War II had begun much earlier. This essay is called Learning in Wartime, that C.S. Lewis wrote, and it is collected in the book The Weight of Glory. It's one of the essays collected there. I will leave the links on the descriptions if you are interested in reading that book. There are so many other interesting essays as well. So, preaching this sermon, which is now an essay, C.S. Lewis tries to answer that most primordial question of all: what is the purpose of education? When there is a great world war happening and the world as we know it could eventually end tomorrow, what is the point of still going to school? And C.S. Lewis says, he actually uses a lot of analogies and metaphors, and he compares this to Emperor Nero, as Nero is playing his flute, as Rome is burning, as tradition has it. And C.S. Lewis asks, are we not just playing music while Rome is burning? Isn't this pointless and futile as Rome is burning, that we are giving so much of our energy to these earthly things, when more important things are happening around us? What is the purpose of education? Finally, he drives an interesting point. He says the assumption that we are making is that, in that case, war was an abnormal factor and invading the normality of a human life. But here's the thing, is that human life has never been normal. Human life has always been lived at the edge of a precipice. Those who always postpone for tomorrow what they could do today are eventually those who never actually achieve anything in their lives. Think about that book that you might be thinking of writing, but you say, oh, I will write this book when I have more time. Maybe if you are a teacher or if you are an administrator, an executive working in a company, you might say, if only I had more time. If only I had more time, I could eventually write that book. I could eventually perform that task, compose that music, publish that paper, only if I had more time. But now I am too busy with my duties, carrying on with the things that I have to do, my daily job, my daily work. But here's the thing, is that if we keep thinking like that, time, the ideal time for us to write, to publish, it will never come. It will never come. So that's precisely why we need to do things while we can, because we need to let tomorrow take care of itself. And that's one of the things that Lewis actually writes, and this is tied to his idea of education. If men had postponed the search for truth, goodness and beauty, that search would have never begun in the first place, C.S. Lewis says. We will always have plausible reasons to postpone our learning. But if you look at the history of humanity, Lewis says, has rejected those reasons long time ago. And here he drives in his essay. Those who have achieved most are precisely those who have neglected security and who have embraced risk. Sometimes we feel too comfortable in our comfort zone. It's very hard for us to break away from this comfort zone, to take risks, to be a risk taker. But it is only by taking risks that we are able to achieve greater things. Nothing venture, nothing gain. Everything in life. Not only when you are investing in the stock market, but everything else in life. Even if you are quitting your job, hoping that you will get a new job, that you are applying for other jobs and you need to quit your current job first. You are taking a risk. When you are moving to a new country, when you are entering into a new relationship, you are taking a risk. Everything in life is about taking risks. What is the purpose of education? The main line that C.S. Lewis has in his essay, and here is one of the mottos actually for my own life, is that good philosophy must exist, if for no other reason, because bad philosophy needs to be answered. So that's one of the main reasons, I guess, one of the main purposes of education. There is already many bad ideas out there in the marketplace. That's why we need to come up with better ideas, good ideas. So, for a musician, why must you compose? Well, there is already so many bad musics out there. So therefore, I must write good music because there is already so much bad music. And that goes to everything in life. There is, if you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking of starting your own company, there are many companies that are not very ethical out there. So we need more ethical companies. We need more cultural artifacts that will reflect goodness, that will reflect beauty, that will reflect truth. And finally he says, war may threaten us with death and pain, but war does not increase the percentage of death. In other words, 100% of us human beings will die. And if war happens tomorrow, or if there is another catastrophe or whatever takes place, 100% of us will still die. So war does not increase that percentage. On the very contrary, war anticipates death and forces us to remember it. It's a constant reminder that we are mortal. And the ancients would consider this actually a very good blessing, to be reminded of our human mortality. But if we believe that learning, on the other hand, is a mental activity that leads us to apprehend truth, goodness, and beauty, things that we can enjoy now and that we might hope to enjoy hereafter, even after we die, then we should continue on this path, the path of learning. So, in a nutshell, summarizing, basically, this is what C.S. Lewis has to say about the purpose of education. This is Jonathan Scavani, directly from Japan.